The office was eerily silent that Friday afternoon, save for the rhythmic tapping of keyboards and the occasional rustle of papers. Sarah had been with the company for 5 years, steadily climbing the ranks from an entry-level position to a senior account manager. She prided herself on her work ethic, often staying late to ensure her clients received the best service possible. Her team respected her leadership, and her clients trusted her judgment. Her boss, Mr. Thompson, was a different story altogether. He was a tall man with sharp features and an even sharper tongue. Known for his volatile temper and cutthroat business tactics, he had earned a reputation as someone who would do anything to get ahead. Despite his abrasive personality, Sarah had always managed to maintain a professional relationship with him, believing that her dedication and results would speak for themselves. Today, however, something felt off. As she sat at her desk, reviewing the quarterly reports, she noticed Mr. Thompson's door was slightly ajar. His voice, usually booming and authoritative, carried a strange edge to it. She tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept drifting back to the unsettling atmosphere in the office. The air seemed heavier, charged with an unspoken tension that made her stomach churn. Sarah glanced around the room, catching the nervous glances exchanged between her colleagues. It wasn't unusual for Mr. Thompson to call unexpected meetings, but today's aura was different. There was a palpable sense of dread lingering in the air, like the calm before a storm. She couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen, and whatever it was, it wouldn't be good. As the minutes ticked by, Sarah's anxiety grew. She found herself checking her watch more frequently, each passing second stretching longer than the last. Her heart pounded in her chest, a relentless drumbeat that echoed her growing unease. The silence in the office was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning and the soft clatter of fingers on keyboards. Finally, Mr. Thompson's voice broke through the stillness. "Sarah, in my office. Now." His tone was clipped, devoid of any warmth or courtesy. Her heart sank as she rose from her chair, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. The walk to his office felt like a march to the gallows, each step heavier than the last. She could feel the eyes of her colleagues boring into her back, their gazes filled with a mixture of sympathy and relief that it wasn't them being summoned. Inside the office, the blinds were drawn, casting long shadows across the room. Mr. Thompson sat behind his imposing mahogany desk, his face a mask of cold indifference. "Close the door," he instructed, his voice as hard as steel. Sarah obeyed, the click of the door latch sounding unnaturally loud in the confined space. "Take a seat," he gestured toward the chair opposite him. She complied, perching on the edge of the seat, her back rigid with tension. Mr. Thompson leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk, his eyes boring into hers. "I've been reviewing your performance over the past few months," he began, his words measured and deliberate. "And I must say I'm disappointed." Sarah's heart plummeted. She had worked tirelessly, bringing in new clients and exceeding her targets. "But Sir, she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not finished," he interrupted, his tone sharp. "You've been coasting, relying on past successes rather than pushing for new achievements. Frankly, you're becoming a liability." Her breath caught in her throat, the words hitting her like a physical blow. "That's not true," she protested, her voice gaining strength. "I've secured 5 major accounts this quarter alone." "Accounts that could have been bigger if you'd pushed harder," he snapped. "Your lack of initiative is costing this company potential growth. And now, we need to make some changes." He opened a folder on his desk, rifling through the papers inside. "Effective immediately, your salary will be reduced by 20%. Consider it a wake-up call. If you want to keep your position here, you'll need to prove your worth." Sarah's mind reeled, the room spinning around her. "But that's not fair," she exclaimed, her voice rising in desperation. "I've given everything to this company." "You've given mediocrity," he cut her off, his expression unchanged. "If you can't handle the pressure, maybe you're in the wrong line of work." The words pierced her like daggers, each syllable laced with venom. Sarah felt her cheeks burn with shame and anger, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. She wanted to argue, to defend herself against his accusations, but the weight of his authority pressed down on her, silencing her protests. "And one more thing," Mr. Thompson added, his voice dripping with disdain. "I've heard from several clients that they find your approach lacking. You're too accommodating, too willing to bend to their demands. In short, you're useless." The final word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Sarah's vision blurred with unshed tears, her pride shattered under the weight of his cruel assessment. She sat there, frozen, unable to process the magnitude of what had just transpired. The man she had once respected, the company she had devoted years of her life to, had turned on her without warning or justification. Mr. Thompson dismissed her with a wave of his hand, already turning his attention to the papers on his desk. "That will be all," he said, his voice dismissive. "I expect to see improvement, or we'll have to reconsider your role here entirely." Sarah stood on shaky legs, her body numb with shock. She stumbled out of the office, closing the door behind her with a soft click. The eyes of her colleagues followed her as she made her way back to her desk, their expressions a mix of pity and fear. The weight of Mr. Thompson's words pressed down on her, a relentless tide threatening to pull her under. She sank into her chair, her mind racing with thoughts of indignation and betrayal. How could he dismiss her contributions so casually? The countless hours she had poured into her work, the sleepless nights spent strategizing and planning, all reduced to a label of incompetence. The injustice of it burned within her, fueling a fire that had long been dormant. As the initial shock began to subside, a fierce determination took root in her heart. She refused to let Mr. Thompson's cruelty define her. This wasn't just about the money, it was about respect, about proving her worth in a world that seemed determined to tear her down. She straightened her posture, her jaw set with resolve. If he thought she would crumble under the pressure, he was gravely mistaken. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities, each idea sparking a newfound sense of purpose. She recalled the clients who had praised her dedication, the ones who had expressed their loyalty and trust. They were her lifeline, her ticket to reclaiming her dignity. With renewed vigor, she began drafting emails and making calls, reaching out to those who had believed in her when others hadn't. Her first call was to Marcus, a longtime client whose account she had nurtured from its infancy. His warm voice on the other end of the line was a balm to her wounded spirit. "Sarah, it's good to hear from you," he said, his tone genuine. She explained her situation, careful not to dwell on the specifics of Mr. Thompson's cruelty. Instead, she focused on her plans, her vision for a brighter future. Marcus listened intently, his support unwavering. "You've always been there for us," he assured her. "We won't abandon you now." His words ignited a spark of hope within her, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this fight. Emboldened by his encouragement, she continued reaching out to her network, each conversation reinforcing her belief in her abilities. By the end of the day, Sarah had secured tentative agreements from 3 more clients, each promising to follow her lead should she decide to leave the company. Their loyalty was a testament to her hard work and dedication, a stark contrast to Mr. Thompson's baseless accusations. She felt a surge of gratitude, her heart swelling with appreciation for those who stood by her side. Yet, amidst the flurry of calls and emails, a darker plan began to form in her mind. Mr. Thompson had underestimated her, dismissing her as powerless and insignificant. But he had forgotten one crucial detail: she knew the inner workings of the company better than anyone else. The system that had once been her greatest ally could now become her most potent weapon. Sarah spent the weekend meticulously planning her next move, her mind a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. She knew she had to tread carefully, ensuring that her actions were calculated and precise. The goal wasn't destruction for destruction's sake, it was about leveling the playing field, about forcing Mr. Thompson to acknowledge the value she brought to the table. Monday morning arrived with a sense of inevitability. Sarah walked into the office with her head held high, her demeanor exuding confidence and purpose. Her colleagues watched her with a mixture of admiration and apprehension, sensing that something monumental was about to unfold. She greeted them with a smile, her usual warmth masking the storm brewing beneath the surface. As she settled into her desk, Sarah initiated the first phase of her plan. She began subtly redirecting resources, reallocating budgets in ways that would gradually cripple the efficiency of the company's operations. It was a delicate dance, requiring precision and timing to avoid detection. Each keystroke was a step closer to dismantling the very foundation Mr. Thompson had built his empire upon. Throughout the week, she maintained her facade of normalcy, attending meetings and contributing to discussions with unwavering professionalism. Yet, behind closed doors, she orchestrated a symphony of chaos. Files went missing, critical deadlines were missed, and communication channels faltered. The once seamless operation began to unravel, threads pulling loose in a tapestry of dysfunction. Mr. Thompson remained oblivious, attributing the growing inefficiencies to external factors beyond his control. His frustration mounted, evident in his increasingly erratic behavior. He barked orders and demanded explanations, his authority waning with each passing day. Sarah observed his descent with a detached satisfaction, her resolve unwavering. Meanwhile, she continued nurturing her relationships with her loyal clients. Regular check-ins and updates reinforced their trust, solidifying their commitment to follow her lead. She shared her vision for a future where their needs would be prioritized, where collaboration and mutual respect would drive success. Their enthusiasm was contagious, fueling her determination to see her plan through to fruition. As the days turned into weeks, the cracks in the company's foundation widened. Projects stalled, revenue streams dwindled, and morale plummeted. Mr. Thompson's attempts to regain control were futile, his commands falling on deaf ears as his subordinates scrambled to address the mounting crises. The office buzzed with whispered conversations, speculation running rampant about the source of the turmoil. Sarah remained a beacon of stability amidst the chaos, her presence a calming influence on her colleagues. They sought her guidance, trusting her judgment in navigating the turbulent waters. Unbeknownst to them, she was the architect of their struggles, the mastermind behind the unraveling of their once thriving enterprise. Yet, with each passing day, the weight of her actions grew heavier. The line between justice and vengeance blurred, her motivations shifting beneath the surface. Was she fighting for recognition, or was she driven by a desire for retribution? The question lingered in the recesses of her mind, a haunting reminder of the fine line she walked. Despite the moral ambiguity, Sarah pressed on, her resolve unshaken. She had come too far to turn back now, the stakes too high to abandon her mission. The culmination of her efforts was imminent, the final pieces falling into place as she prepared to unveil her ultimate move. The morning dawned with a heaviness that seemed to permeate every corner of the office. Sarah arrived early, her steps echoing through the empty halls as she made her way to her desk. Today was the day she would execute the final phase of her plan, the culmination of weeks of meticulous preparation and strategic maneuvering. Her heart pounded with anticipation, each beat resonating with the gravity of the moment. As her colleagues trickled in, the atmosphere was tense, charged with an unspoken awareness that something significant was about to unfold. Whispers flitted through the air, fragmented sentences hinting at the growing unrest. Sarah greeted them with a composed smile, her exterior masking the storm brewing within. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind, visualizing each step with precision. Her first task was to finalize the transfer of key client accounts to her personal portfolio. She had spent weeks cultivating these relationships, ensuring that her clients were prepared to follow her lead. With a deep breath, she initiated the process, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she navigated the intricate web of digital files. Each click was a step closer to severing her ties with the company, a liberation from the chains of oppression. As she worked, Sarah's phone buzzed incessantly, notifications flooding in from her clients. They were ready, their messages filled with encouragement and unwavering support. "We're with you," one message read, while another promised, "Whatever you need, we're here." Their loyalty fortified her resolve, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this fight. With the client transfers underway, Sarah turned her attention to the final piece of her plan, exposing the systemic flaws she had exploited. She had documented every misstep, every inefficiency, compiling a comprehensive report that laid bare the vulnerabilities within the company's operations. This dossier was her insurance, a safeguard against any attempts to discredit her actions. She uploaded the file to a secure server, ensuring that it would be accessible to the right people at the right time. The media contacts she had cultivated over the years were on standby, ready to release the information to the public. The thought of the impending scandal sent a shiver down her spine, a mix of exhilaration and trepidation coursing through her veins. As the clock ticked closer to noon, Sarah gathered her belongings, her movements deliberate and measured. She placed the final documents into her bag, double-checking that everything was in order. Her heart swelled with a mixture of emotions, pride, fear, and an overwhelming sense of liberation. This was it, the moment she had been building towards. She stood up, her chair scraping softly against the floor. Her colleagues looked up, their eyes wide with curiosity and concern. Sarah met their gazes with a steady resolve, her voice ringing clear as she addressed them. "Change is coming," she announced, her words carrying a weight that silenced the room. "And I refuse to be part of a system that devalues dedication and hard work." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mixture of awe and apprehension. Some nodded in understanding, while others exchanged worried glances. Sarah didn't linger, knowing that time was of the essence. She turned on her heel, her footsteps echoing with purpose as she made her way to Mr. Thompson's office. The door was slightly ajar, and she pushed it open without hesitation. Mr. Thompson looked up, his expression a mix of surprise and irritation. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Sarah stepped inside, closing the door behind her with a soft click. "It's over," she stated, her voice firm and unwavering. "You've underestimated me, and now you'll see the consequences of your actions." Mr. Thompson's eyes narrowed, his demeanor shifting from annoyance to suspicion. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his tone laced with caution. Without a word, Sarah placed the dossier on his desk, the weight of the document heavy with implication. "This is everything," she explained, her gaze locked onto his. "Every flaw, every misstep, every decision that led to the downfall of this company. And soon the world will know." His face paled, the realization dawning in his eyes. "You wouldn't dare," he stammered, his voice tinged with panic. "I already have," she replied, a steely determination in her voice. "Consider this your wake-up call." With that, Sarah turned and walked out of the office, leaving Mr. Thompson to grapple with the repercussions of his own making. The hallway stretched before her, a path to a future she had carved with her own hands. Her heart soared with a sense of triumph, the culmination of her journey finally within reach. As she approached the exit, her phone vibrated once more. A message from Marcus flashed on the screen, "We're waiting for you." A smile spread across her face, her steps quickening with anticipation. The door loomed ahead, a gateway to a new beginning. She reached for the handle, her fingers brushing against the cool metal, ready to step into the unknown. Sarah pushed open the heavy glass door, stepping into the bright sunlight that seemed to embrace her like an old friend. The warmth on her face felt like a balm to the wounds of betrayal and injustice she had endured for so long. For the first time in months, she could breathe freely, unburdened by the weight of Mr. Thompson's cruelty or the toxic environment he had cultivated. As she walked toward the parking lot, her phone buzzed again with messages from clients who were eagerly awaiting her next move. Marcus was already there, leaning against his car with a reassuring smile. Beside him stood 4 other trusted clients, faces she recognized as allies in this new chapter of her life. They had all agreed to meet her outside the office, ready to support her transition into independence. Their presence filled her with gratitude and renewed purpose. "Ready?" Marcus asked, his voice warm and steady. "More than ever," Sarah replied, her confidence radiating through every word. She turned back briefly to glance at the towering building behind her, its windows reflecting the sunlight like shards of glass. It no longer represented security or opportunity, it was simply a relic of her past, a painful but necessary stepping stone to something greater. The group moved to a nearby cafe where they had planned their meeting. Over coffee and pastries, Sarah laid out her vision for what came next. "I want to create something different," she began, her tone passionate yet measured. "A company built on trust, collaboration, and mutual respect. No more cutthroat tactics or exploitation. Just honest work and real results." Her words resonated deeply with her clients, each nodding in agreement. They had seen firsthand how her approach yielded success, not just in numbers, but in genuine partnerships that benefited everyone involved. One by one, they pledged their commitment to join her venture, offering not only their business but also seed funding to help get things off the ground. Over the following weeks, Sarah threw herself into building her dream. She rented a small office space downtown, painted the walls a soft shade of blue to evoke calmness and creativity, and hired a small team of former colleagues who had been disillusioned by Mr. Thompson's leadership. Together, they crafted a company culture rooted in empathy and integrity, ensuring that every decision prioritized people over profit. Meanwhile, the scandal at her old company erupted exactly as Sarah had anticipated. The media picked up the story, exposing the systemic flaws and unethical practices that had plagued the organization under Mr. Thompson's watch. Investors pulled out, employees resigned in droves, and within months, the once mighty enterprise crumbled under the weight of its own corruption. Mr. Thompson's reputation was irreparably tarnished, leaving him scrambling to salvage what little remained. Sarah watched the fallout unfold from afar, feeling neither vindicated nor vengeful. Instead, she focused on nurturing her growing business, which quickly gained traction thanks to her loyal client base and innovative strategies. Her company became known for its ethical practices and exceptional service, earning accolades in industry circles and attracting even more clients eager to partner with someone they could trust. 1 year later, Sarah stood on stage at a prestigious awards gala, accepting the Entrepreneur of the Year award. Her heart swelled with pride as she looked out at the audience, seeing familiar faces among the crowd, her team, her clients, and even some former colleagues who had believed in her when she needed it most. In her acceptance speech, she spoke candidly about her journey, acknowledging both the hardships and triumphs along the way. "This isn't just my victory," she said, her voice steady and heartfelt. "It belongs to everyone who refused to accept mediocrity, who stood up for what was right, and who chose to believe in the power of resilience. To anyone listening tonight who feels stuck or undervalued, know that your worth is not defined by others' opinions. You have the strength to rewrite your story, just as I did mine." The room erupted in applause, tears glistening in the eyes of many attendees. Sarah stepped down from the stage, greeted by hugs and congratulations from those closest to her. As she mingled with guests, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she'd come, from the dark days of self-doubt to standing tall as a beacon of hope for others. That evening, as she drove home beneath a canopy of stars, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She thought about the challenges ahead, because there would always be challenges, but now, she faced them with unwavering confidence. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was hers. And for the first time in a long time, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Years later, Sarah's company grew into a global powerhouse, celebrated not only for its financial success but also for its commitment to ethical practices and employee well-being. Offices around the world bore the same calming blue walls, a reminder of the values upon which everything had been built. Former colleagues often reached out to thank her for inspiring them to pursue their dreams, while aspiring entrepreneurs sought her advice on starting their own ventures. Sarah never forgot the lessons she learned during those difficult months, the importance of resilience, the value of loyalty, and the transformative power of believing in oneself. Though scars remained, they served as reminders of her strength rather than symbols of pain. And whenever doubt crept in, she remembered the day she walked out of that oppressive office with 5 clients by her side, ready to build a brighter future, one step at a time.